Hi, my name is Darren McCallicker. I am a strength conditioning coach, but I'm also one of the contributors to the text and also the um, chair of the high school SIG for the NSCA. And I had generated a survey for the Facebook group to try to gather some uh, questions in advance for the roundtable that's going to be at the coaches conference. And I'm really upset that I'm not able to be in San Antonio with you. Just some job issues. I'm also an athletic director, and this is a peak time for us. But looking forward to making the national conference in July. But one of the questions that is really in my wheelhouse is that I wanted to create a video. Hopefully, you have time to view it is the question of illustrating how does one illustrate the importance of a strength conditioning program. And one thing I really wanted to hit hard on with this point is the coach needs to determine the audience and the stakeholders that they are speaking with. And I kind of did a little brainstorming and all the different types of stakeholders that we might encounter: sport coaches, parent groups or booster clubs, the athletic director. He or she are kind of their own little entity. Building level school administrators and district level administrators. So if you're talking to sport coaches, think about the lens that they are having a conversation with you from. So they're going to want to know how you can help the team compete. They're going to want to know how you can fit into their existing structures, their time. When do they have practice? Are you able to be available when they have practice? Um, they might only have so many hours a week to interact with the kids. Some states have that, some states don't. Like Pennsylvania doesn't have a maximum amount of practice or team time, but that might occur in some states. Some coaches might want you to work with their teams, but they might not want you to take up too much time. So they're going to want to know how you fit into those structures. And then they're also going to have conversations about how it's going to be funded. And that's going to be important to you too, because you're not doing this pro bono. And from the coach perspective, they're going to look at it. There's different ways a school could fund a strength conditioning coach, but they're just going to look at it as a school funded initiative, or is it going to be booster funded or parent funded? They're going to want to know, is there something that I need to fundraise for? If you have your own business and they're gonna pay your business for you to be there, or is this going to be parent funded where each parent has to pay a certain amount as like a camp model? But sport coaches generally aren't going to know a lot about the school funding process. They just know if the school funds it or doesn't fund it. Schools have different pots of money that I'll get into later, but they might be, or they should be, very valuable advocates to the athletic director or the school or district administration. Then you have parent groups from booster clubs. Their main question is going to be, how can you help my child compete? And can you help prepare my child for collegiate play? Some booster clubs may pay for strength conditioning coaches, and there might be some people in attendance that are partially funded from booster club activity. I mean, I have a football booster club that makes $15,000 a pop at like these random purse bingos. So, like they don't pay for a strength and conditioning coach, but a lot of them have money to do that. One thing that booster clubs probably won't have on their radar unless they are an all sport booster club is the idea of equity. And that's very important at the strength conditioning level, because schools are going to have to illustrate that they're showing the same, or they're providing the same opportunities for female sports as they are for male sports. And we know, football kind of got started with the strength conditioning gig many, many, many years ago, but we're at a point now that we definitely have to, as school administrators or school leaders, there needs to be equity in what we're providing to our athletes. So an all sport booster club might have equity on their radar and Title IX compliance, whereas a sport specific booster club, like a football or basketball booster club, that might not be on their radar. One thing I would caution coaches about when dealing with parent groups and booster clubs and parents can be a great asset for you. And they can be an extremely good advocate for you. but I would never put myself in the position to overplay that relationship, especially to the athletic director, especially to the district administration, because inevitably what happens at some juncture in this process of a school district um, adopting a formal strength conditioning program or a strength conditioning coach is that the booster club or a parent group or a coach group will go to a school board meeting and say, this is what we need. And they're going to say, this is our guy. And they're going to point to you or girl. And, they're going to say, well, this is our girl. And she's been working with our girls basketball team for 2 years. And this is what she's done for our team. And that conversation inevitably is going to alienate somebody on that school board or that administration, because they might not see the value or it might not be a priority for them. And then you're going to get painted in this negative light. So I would try to remain very diplomatic in that process. If you find yourself as a part of a group of parents or booster club or sport coaches that are going to a school board meeting or at the administration to advocate for you personally, that's a very fine line, but try to remain as diplomatic as possible. So then there's the athletic director. And the athletic director's main concerns should be, how can the strength conditioning coach help all my programs compete? Will the coach provide safety and equity? And I think that's a big point to hit hard when you're coming from the NSCA or you're in a CSCS. There's going to be a lot of information, a lot of data that you can show about safety and how you can do things better than the run-of-the-mill coach off the street who just benches and does whatever. So and then the equity piece is very important, even if you're only working with one sport team at the time. I think if you're getting the opportunity to interface with an AD, you need to talk about the importance of equity and safety and what you can bring to all the programs. Maybe not just your marquee programs. Talk about what you can do for tennis. Talk about what you can do for golf. Talk about what you can do for social and emotional pieces for students. That's all very important to the mind of the administrator. And they're also going to know how you can fit into existing structures as well. A lot of I work in a somewhat rural district, and we have an activity bus that leaves at 5:15 every day. So most of our time, for training, for practice, is between 3 and 5 every day, because most of our students aren't going to be able to get back for practice in the evenings. So I would need a coach to be able to fit into that structure. And then finally, the last piece is funding. When you start having that conversation with the AD, it's going to be, how is this going to be funded from the district level? There's 2 different pots of money or 3 really, that person, the AD, can play with. One's going to be a personnel budget, which is likely tied to their collective bargaining agreement with their education association. That is your best bet. That's where you want to be as a strength conditioning coach. You want to be in that full-time employment category, ideally a part of the collective bargaining agreement. That is ideal. And then another way for them to fund you would be through accounts payable, and that's basically like contracted services. So the accounts payable would be like, you would use that for a vendor. So you would be a business, and they would pay you. They would outsource that service to you as a person, or ideally or likely like a business. You probably have to be an incorporated business for that. And then the other way is boosters. Some school districts and sport boosters, probably if it's an all sport booster situation, are very synergistic, and that booster club can do big fundraisers, and they can offset big things for the school district athletic department. And strength conditioning is certainly one of those things where that could happen. And finally, you could run it as like a club or a camp situation. We offer strength conditioning in the summer for our students, but we also offer separate specific camps like speed camps or whatever, so a parent can pay 50, $100 for the summer and it's 2 sessions a week for an hour, and the kids come and that money goes right to the coach. So there's different ways that the AD can do that or pay for it, but you're going to have that conversation likely with him or her. Then you have building level school administration. They're going to want to look at things for the overall benefit to the student body, and they're going to look at things from the perspective of priority. They're going to have lots of people come to them on a regular basis saying, we can do this to help your students in some aspect of the school, and they're going to have to figure out what the best way to do that is, or what the greatest bang for the buck. And they're also going to look at those funding questions. If you're having conversations with building level administration, then you're getting closer to that personnel budget place where you probably want to be, because that's where those decisions are made, and with the district level administration. So when you're having conversations with district level administration, it's very 30,000 foot view. They're looking at where is this in terms of a priority scale for our students? Is this going to be safe? Is this going to cause any liabilities? Or is this going to make something that we're already probably doing safer, which is a good angle for you to have? And then also the equity piece, because, again, the liability aspect of we can't offer training to like one population and not another. Can we fit this into an existing framework in terms of time, in terms of personnel, in terms of facilities, or does it require additional resources? If we're doing this, do we need to have a strategic plan to pay for a new facility? I mean, these are going to be questions that they're going to ask, maybe not to you, but internally. And then obviously the funding piece. So then how are we going to illustrate value to these different stakeholders? It's really important to connect your mission to education-based athletics and remaining student-centered. I think it's important for you to talk about how you're going to develop essential skills like dedication, work ethic, to not only make them better athletes, but to make them better people, more productive adults, because that's where that education-based focus comes from. You want to talk about how you can cultivate a growth mindset with your athletes, and everyone's going to achieve and improve in this process. I think that's a very important point. And then offering data, both qualitative and quantitative. Ideally, you've worked with some of the student athletes, and ideally those parents and coaches can speak to the value that you would bring to them, but perhaps you haven't worked with them before and you still can provide data. The NSCA has a lot of resources that you could just use very, very quickly off the website to provide data about, injury prevention, performance, and then also like these sport behaviors factors of enthusiasm, team cohesion, feeling of being prepared for the competition. I think you need to make sure your presentation, either formally or informally, is relevant to the perception of the stakeholder. So you're going to have to do some research to see or try to determine what that stakeholder is looking for. Maybe what are some problems they have encountered in the past? Where are their concerns? Where's their headspace at? Always remain student focused in your conversations. Don't get bogged down in minutiae of training, which I find a lot of younger strength and conditioning coaches that are coming out of college they get bogged down in the nuts and bolts. I kind of differentiate training between the art and the science. I think the art is what keeps you in it. And understanding that the person that you're talking to might not care about the science. They want to know more about how or why, or what your why is as a coach. What can you bring to the kids? And then I think finally, an important point is when you're talking to upper school and district level administration, how can you bring value to the entire student body or the community? And I think that's a really great 30,000 foot piece that you need to be aware of. Some ideas for that, or how you can bring vertical alignment to the health and physical education department through like LTAD principles, because you're going to be an expert, when it comes down to these things for that district. So, how can you mentor and nurture your health and physical education department, K through 12, those teachers to implement these principles, which is going to make your job more effective, but also help your kids, the students that you service, be, to be better movers, better athletes, more healthier. How can you contribute to the school district health and wellness policy? Because every school has to do that. It's a federal and state mandate in most places. And then finally, is there a way for you to reach out to youth sport organizations to help, maybe not coach them per se, but maybe we can offer them camps. Maybe we can offer them, uniform warm-ups based on the warm-up strategies, based on the demands of their activity. Maybe we can implement little things that can go a long way to help them be better athletes, better movers, and more productive kids as they mature, stay healthier. So there's just some ideas on how to illustrate value. Try to keep it as short as possible, and I hope you enjoy the conference. Thank you.